Today we're tackling a topic that I know hits home for many of us: credit card debt. Specifically, I'm going to share with you how to pay off a credit card even when you are feeling squeezed with no extra cash flow at the end of the month. If you've been struggling to break free from the cycle of debt, this video today is for you. So definitely make sure you stick around because I will be breaking down a simple strategy over here on my whiteboard that I believe will change your financial future. My name is Ken of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. I'm a chartered accountant and former CFO, and together with my wife Mary, we achieved financial independence at the age of 34, including mortgage-free in 7 years. We're also Sunday Times best-selling authors of our debut book titled Financial Joy, a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. I'll link to it below as well as above if you wanted to check it out. Today's video will be split into 4 main parts. Okay. Now, part 1 of this video, we're going to be taking a reality check basically, and also looking at the mindset shift that's required for beating the credit card companies. Part 2 of today's video will be us looking at how we can potentially pause or reduce the interest that we're paying on our credit card debt. Part 3 will look at how we can restructure our budget in order to help us become credit card debt free. And then part 4 of this video will look at choosing a particular debt-free strategy. Then in part 5, we'll look at how we can leverage other side income ideas, and then we'll come to wrap up with a conclusion. Does that sound good? If it does, please take a moment to literally hit the like button, as that gives me a signal that today's video really resonates with you. All right, let's jump straight in and look at part 1, which is looking at a reality check, and the mindset shift we need to have in order to beat the credit card companies. So to begin, let's talk about why this is such a common problem. According to research that I looked up by the Money Charity in the UK, the average total debt per household is a whopping £65,865. The average household credit card debt is £2,534, and this has risen by 5.84% in the last 12 months alone. Up on the screen is a summary of the total UK personal debt and how it's broken down by household. The amount of debt a household has can be affected by a number of factors. For example, the cost of living, interest rates moving up or down, household income levels, as well as when you start to look a bit deeper at the money habits. Step Change, the debt charity, reported that the most common reasons that people reported for seeking debt advice for why they got into debt was cost of living increases, lack of control over their finances, as well as unemployment and redundancy happening. Now, high interest rates can make it very difficult to pay off credit card debt and can lead people into a cycle of debt effectively. Many people are making the minimum payments, which means that they are barely touching the principal on their debt. This can make it feel like a never-ending treadmill. So today I want to look at some examples. I've got here my whiteboard, and I want to look at a real-life example here of somebody who has credit card debt of £1,000. And with this credit card, let's assume that they've got an interest rate of 20%. If you make just the minimum payments on this particular credit card, you'll be paying around £25 per month. Now, I'd love you to take a moment to just pause and ask yourself, how long do you think it would take to pay off this credit card if you only made the minimum payment each month? Please feel free to pause this video and actually jump in the comments and let me know what you think. I actually went ahead and used a credit card repayment calculator to work this out. And the number is shocking because it works out to be, pay attention to this, 18 years and 4 months. That to me is absolutely insane. And that's not even the end of it, because to clear the actual balance that this person borrowed in this scenario would mean that they'd need to pay a total of £2,317 altogether, with £1,317 of that number being just in interest. That makes up 57% of the total that they end up repaying in 18 years and 4 months. Now, the shocking thing is that your estimated minimum payment in this scenario of £25 per month actually decreases each month, meaning that you'll be in debt for longer if you only made the minimum payments. Up on the screen is a summary of what I've just shared. This illustration assumes that no additional spend on a credit card happened and no fees were incurred, which is highly unlikely. Also up on the screen is a screenshot showing that in the UK, a credit card on the average interest rate would take around 27 years to repay if you're making only the legal minimum repayments, which typically is the interest plus 1% of the outstanding balance each month. All this is absolutely crazy. I mean, what do you think? I'd love you to jump in the comments and let me know if that surprised you. But don't worry if this is a situation you're in, because we're going to be turning this around. But I want to just pause and just ask you, if this video is really giving you a lot of value, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button right there somewhere and share this video with somebody else who needs this advice. All right, let's now talk about the mindset for beating the credit card companies. You see, I did some research and the word credit has its origins in the Latin term credere, which means to believe or to trust. You see, when a lender extends credit to you, they believe that you will repay the borrowed money according to the agreed terms, officially. This understanding of credit as meaning trust or belief is actually key to beating the credit card companies at their game by making smart financial decisions that work to your advantage, whilst of course you are navigating the realities of living with credit card debt. So this is where part 2 of today's video actually comes in. And part 2 is how can we go about pausing or potentially eliminating the interest payments such that we have breathing room to work on paying it off. Now, the first game changer is something called a balance transfer. If you've never heard of a balance transfer effectively allows you to move your credit card debt to another credit card with a 0% interest promotional period. Now, this means more of your repayment effectively goes towards the actual debt rather than the interest, as I illustrated earlier. So I want us to look at another illustration now where I take that £1,000 example that I looked at before, but this time around just almost spelling out what that looks like from a balance transfer perspective. All right, for example, let's say you get approved for a card offering a 0% interest for 24 months. In this example, you'd see that in the old world, you had your £1,000 at 20%. This is the old credit card you had, but you went and applied for one for £1,000 at 0%. You would simply transfer that balance from there to the new card, leaving you with the option of not paying any interest at all because you have moved that balance to one that has a 0 interest rate on it. However, what this then does is it gives you this possibility of aggressively targeting your credit card debt, such that if you went on a straight line basis and took that £1,000 and divided it by 24 months in this example, you could, if you really focused on it, could become completely credit card debt free if you paid £42 per month in order to fully pay off the credit card within the 24-month period that you have that 0% rate. Now, having said that, balance transfers have their pros and cons. And I want to just talk about this because I want to be absolutely real when it comes to debt, because debt is a big topic. The pros are with the balance transfer, number one is that it's ideal if you have a long time to pay off the debts and you're currently paying high interest rates in excess of 10%. So tick. The second is that a 0% introductory deal could mean that you don't pay any interest at all. That's another bonus. And the third pro is that the better your credit score, the better the deals you can find on a balance transfer card. Okay, so those are all good. But of course, there are cons. And the first con is that there's a catch when it comes to balance transfers. you pay a balance transfer fee typically of around 3%, which reduces slightly the interest savings that you have. The second con is that the introductory period ends, meaning that the 0% rate will jump significantly to a rate typically over 20%. And then the third con is that if you apply for the balance transfer card and get declined, it damages your credit score further. So with this in mind, here are the humble pennies, seven rules to win with balance transfers. So rule number 1 is this: if you do a balance transfer, do not pay only the minimums on the new card. So pay off more aggressively the balance that you have, the balance that you actually carried across. Be aggressive about it. Rule number 2 is don't spend a penny on the new card, as tempting as it is, as you get stung with high interest rates. Rule number 3 is look for longer introductory periods with 0% APR, so you have more time to pay off the transferred balance. Develop for yourself a repayment plan by calculating how much you need to pay each month to eliminate the balance by the end of the introductory period. So a bit like that illustration I gave you earlier, by doing a flat 24 months and then working out how much per month over 24 months. Rule number 4 is pay off the full balance on the new credit card before the 0% period ends to avoid paying a higher interest rate when the deal ends, or another transfer fee to transfer it to another credit card. Rule number 5 is don't waste time. So transfer your debt to the new card literally, like immediately you are approved, to avoid paying more interest unnecessarily. Rule 6 is automate monthly payments so that they are on time without fail. A late payment could lead to penalties or loss of the promotional APR and additional interest charges, which of course you don't want to incur, sinking you deeper into debt. And then finally, rule number 7 is always read the small print and stay organized to make this work for you. Now, it's important as part of rule 7 to say that if you think you can't pay off your credit card, before the introductory period ends, then we would say definitely do not sign up for a balance transfer credit card. Now that we've covered part 2, let's move on to part 3, which is strategy number 2, which is how can we restructure our budget to help to achieve our goal of becoming credit card debt free. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, I have no extra cash flow, Ken, so where do I find the money? This is where we actually have to get creative, and let's start by restructuring your budget. So again, I'm going to pick up my board to illustrate this. All right, so what I'd love you to do is actually take your expenses and split them into these categories. So fixed, variable, and discretionary. So examples of your fixed expenses are rent, mortgage, and that sort of thing, right? Because you expect them to be roughly around the same amount unless obviously things change, interest rates and what have you, or your rent goes up. Variable expenses are your utilities, groceries, and so on. And your discretionary are things like your takeaways or unproductive, subscriptions or streaming services that aren't really helping you to grow your income or to improve your outcome. The key thing here is to focus on cutting the discretionary expenses temporarily. Okay, so cancel those unproductive subscriptions that, like I mentioned, aren't really helping you to grow or make more money. Sell any unused items you have around your house. Literally do an audit if you can. Pick up a one-off gig if you can. The goal is to find a way to generate an extra £50 or £100 per month that can go straight towards clearing your credit card balance. But now remember, this doesn't require additional cash flow per se. What you're really doing here is reallocating money you are already spending such that you're prioritizing needs over, wants or other discretionary things. And obviously also selling things around the house potentially to create a bit of money. Now let's look at part 4, which is to choose a strategy. Now, once you've freed up a bit of cash, it's time to decide on your debt repayment method. Now, the debt snowball is one way of going about it, where you focus on the smallest amount of debt and then you then move on to the next credit card balance and so on. And the debt avalanche literally says, I will focus on the most expensive, high interest bearing debt that I have, which is usually a credit card or one of your credit cards, and then try and pay off that such that I can get to debt freedom the fastest, right? Either way, the key thing is to choose a method. If you are somebody who prefers, to be motivated, the debt snowball is the method. But if you're someone who is happy to, choose the high interest method and pay that up first, then, the debt avalanche is the method for you to focus on. Key thing is to choose one method and focus on it. All right, part 5 now is to leverage a side income. Finally, if cutting expenses isn't enough, I get it. Think about leveraging a side income. This doesn't mean a full-time second job, for example. Even a few hours of freelancing or selling something on eBay can give you the boost you need to pay off your debt faster. We've made lots of videos, but I can point to one specifically, which is titled 50 Best Side Income Ideas for all kinds of, requirements of time and money and so on. I'll link to it below and above for you to head off and check it out. The key here is flexibility, guys. A temporary, small-scale effort can make a huge difference without necessarily overwhelming you or your schedule, okay? So there you have it, guys. Paying off a credit card, even when you're feeling broke or frustrated, is possible if you think strategically. So a quick recap of what we shared today. First, I've said, if you can, explore using a balance transfer card, but please refer back to the Humble Penny's 7 rules before you actually go ahead. Number 2 is to restructure your budget. Number 3, choose a repayment method as a way to work on becoming credit card debt free. Number 4, explore a side income option. And then I'd add number 5, which is there is help available. There are debt charities, there are lots of resources you can refer to that can help you move forward. These small shifts can create big changes in your financial future if you take action today. I'd highly recommend reading week 6 of our book titled Financial Joy, where we teach you to banish debt for good, as well as how to use good debt to build wealth if you've developed the right money habits. We also cover in that part of the book the 10 steps of what we call our detonator method. Again, like I mentioned before, I'll link to it below for you to feel free to check it out. If you enjoyed today's video, I think you're absolutely going to love the next one, which is a video titled Pay Off Your Mortgage or Invest. Here's a smarter move. I'll link to that to the right-hand side for you to head over and check it out and keep building your financial future. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. And as always, in all things, be thankful and seek joy.